Mughal Empire. Akbar was one of the greatest emperors of the Mughal dynasty. It was during the reign of Akbar that the rule of the Mughals truly began, for both Babur and Humayun had ruled for extremely short and interrupted periods. Akbar was a minor at the time of his father's death, and was under the guardianship of Bairam Khan. Soon after succeeding to the throne, Akbar had to firmly establish Mughal authority and regain the territories it had lost. His enemies challenged his rule, and another historic battle was fought at Panipat, one in which Akbar emerged victorious and firmly established the Mughal power as the dominant power in India. Akbar was still under the guardianship of Bairam but now wished to become a full-fledged king in his own right. Bairam, while providing invaluable service, had begun behaving in a high-handed manner which had resulted in many enemies. In 1560, Akbar expressed his desire to take over, to Bairam, who reluctantly agreed and prepared to leave the empire. Akbar made the tactical mistake of appointing Pir Muhammad, an enemy of Bairam's, to oversee his move out of Mughal territory. Bairam considered this an insult and rose against Akbar. He was however defeated but allowed to continue out of the empire by Akbar, because of the tremendous services he had rendered. Tragically, however, Bairam was killed by an Afghan who held a personal grudge against him. Luckily, his family escaped and his son Abdur Rahim was taken in by Akbar and rose later on to become an important noble of the empire. After assuming control from Bairam, Akbar did not immediately get full control of the empire. His foster mother Maham Anaga and her son Adam Khan and some of her family were exercising an undue influence on the state. Adam Khan led some conquests which, although successful, were brutal. Akbar, unable to tolerate their actions, put Adam Khan to death in 1562. His foster mother died of grief 40 days later. Akbar, at the young age of 14, was now finally in control of his empire. Akbar began a process of consolidation and expansion. He extended the empire's frontiers and they covered almost the entire country, even reaching deep into the south. He set up the Mughal administration, drawing heavily on the institutions and concepts that Sher Shah had used. Under Akbar, the Mughal Empire reached its peak, with its influence extending to almost all parts of the country as well as major developments taking place in the arts and the economy. Akbar ruled for a period of 51 years, which was the longest reign amongst the Mughal emperors. Akbar was one of the most able rulers amongst the Mughals, and one of the greatest emperors in Indian history. Akbar was a very wise and open-minded ruler with a sound character. He was an able administrator as well as a capable soldier. He possessed tremendous courage, often risking his life, and was also extremely strong. He was kind and just, and despite being a great conqueror, he was not cruel to those whom he had defeated. Akbar was not vengeful and usually forgave people who rebelled against him, except in certain cases when it was not possible. Akbar possessed tremendous self-control and had excellent manners. He is said to have been very charming and was praised by all those who came into contact with him. Akbar had a wise and able courtier called Birbal, and there are many stories about the interactions between Akbar and Birbal, who would often provide sound insights into the various problems the emperor was facing. Akbar was also very popular amongst his subjects, who considered him not only the ruler of Delhi but of the entire universe. Akbar also closely monitored his diet and ate moderately. While Akbar did not know how to read and write, one cannot say that he was not a learned man. He had a keen interest in literature and philosophy and was gifted with a brilliant mind and incredible memory. He maintained a large library of books and engaged people to read books to him. His understanding of what he heard was so great that it was said that he could talk so effortlessly on those subjects that one could never get the impression that he was illiterate. Akbar was also a keen patron of art and architecture, and many such works flourished in his time. Akbar was extremely tolerant to religion, evident in the fact that he married a Hindu princess. He realized that it was foolish to ill-treat Hindus who formed a majority in his empire. He made significant efforts to treat them at par, and soon they too were being appointed to high posts. Akbar treated religion with an extremely open mind and spent a lot of time studying the various beliefs of the different religions. This eventually resulted in the creation of a new religion of his own called Din-i-Ilahi. This combined features from various religions and stressed on the idea of that regardless of what religion you follow, God is one. Being a supreme believer in universal tolerance, Akbar made no attempt to force people to convert to his religion, but tried to appeal to the inner feelings of each person. Akbar's last years brought great grief to him. A beloved friend and notable poet Faizi died in 1595. Akbar's son Salim, later to be known as Jahangir, eager to take over the throne, set himself up as an independent king and began plotting to overthrow Akbar. Salim caused much pain to his father when he got another close friend and poet, Abul Fazl, murdered. Father and son spent the last couple of years seesawing between peace and war, but finally, after Akbar died a natural death, Salim succeeded to the throne. Akbar was a great person and a great king. During his time the country reached a level of prosperity it had not seen and would not see for a long time. Being an able statesman, he set an example for the other leaders that would follow. There are many stories about the interactions between Akbar and Birbal, who would often provide sound insights into the various problems the emperor was facing. Akbar was also very popular amongst his subjects, who considered him not only the ruler of Delhi but of the entire universe. Akbar also closely monitored his diet and ate moderately. While Akbar did not know how to read and write, one cannot say that he was not a learned man. He had a keen interest in literature and philosophy and was gifted with a brilliant mind and incredible memory. He maintained a large library of books and engaged people to read books to him. His understanding of what he heard was so great that it was said that he could talk so effortlessly on those subjects that one could never get the impression that he was illiterate. Akbar was also a keen patron of art and architecture, and many such works flourished in his time. Akbar was extremely tolerant to religion, evident in the fact that he married a Hindu princess. He realized that it was foolish to ill-treat Hindus who formed a majority in his empire. He made significant efforts to treat them at par, and soon they too were being appointed to high posts. Akbar treated religion with an extremely open mind and spent a lot of time studying the various beliefs of the different religions. This eventually resulted in the creation of a new religion of his own called Din-i-Ilahi. This combined features from various religions and stressed on the idea of that regardless of what religion you follow, God is one. Being a supreme believer in universal tolerance, Akbar made no attempt to force people to convert to his religion, but tried to appeal to the inner feelings of each person. Akbar's last years brought great grief to him. A beloved friend and notable poet Faizi died in 1595. Akbar's son Salim, later to be known as Jahangir, eager to take over the throne, set himself up as an independent king and began plotting to overthrow Akbar. Salim caused much pain to his father when he got another close friend and poet, Abul Fazl, murdered. Father and son spent the last couple of years seesawing between peace and war, but finally, after Akbar died a natural death, Selim succeeded to the throne. Akbar was a great person and a great king. During his time the country reached a level of prosperity it had not seen and would not see for a long time. Being an able statesman, he set an example for the other leaders that would follow. Akbar, Life, Summary. Emperor Akbar, also known as Akbar the Great or Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar, was the third emperor of the Mughal Empire, after Babur and Humayun. He was the son of Nasiruddin Humayun and succeeded him as the emperor in the year 1556, when he was only 13 years old. One of the most successful emperors of the Mughal Empire, Akbar also made significant contribution in the field of art. Apart from commencing a large collection of literature, he also commissioned a number of splendid buildings during his reign. This biography of King Akbar will provide you more information on his life history. Early life. Akbar was born on the 15th of October 1542, to Emperor Humayun and his recently wedded wife, Hamida Banu Begum. The Rajput fortress of Umarkot in Sindh, where Humayun and Hamida were taking refuge, became the birthplace of this great emperor. In 1540, Humayun was forced into exile by Afghan leader Sher Shah and Akbar spent his childhood in Afghanistan, at his uncle Askari's place. His youth was spent in running and fighting, rather than learning to read and write. However, this could never impair his interest in art, architecture, music and literature. Humayun recaptured Delhi in the year 1555, with the help of his Persian ally Shah Tahmasp. However, a few months after his victory, he met with an accident and died. On the 14th of February 1556, Akbar succeeded the throne, in the midst of a war waged by Sikandar Shah for the Mughal throne. Early rule. The first battle fought by Akbar was against Sikandar Shah Suri of Punjab. However, when Akbar was busy leading assault against Sikandar Shah, Hemu, a Hindu warrior, launched an attack on Delhi, which was then under the regency of Tadi Beg Khan. Tadi fled from the city and Hemu claimed the capital. On the advice of his general, Bairam, Akbar launched an attack on Delhi and reclaimed the city. On the 5th of November 1556, Akbar the Great fought the Second Battle of Panipat against General Hemu. Following soon after was the battle with Sikandar Shah at Mankat. In 1557, Adil Shah, who was the brother of Sikandar, died in a battle in Bengal. Along with fighting against the other rulers, Akbar also solidified his support by revoking the jizya tax on non-Muslims. At the same time, he started wooing the favor of the powerful Rajput caste, at times by marrying Rajput princesses. He expanded the Mughal Empire by including Malwa, Gujarat, Bengal, Kabul, Kashmir and Khandesh, amongst others. In no time, the rule of Akbar was firmly established over the entire Hindustan, India. Final years. Akbar was greatly troubled, in the last few years of his life, due to the misdemeanors of his sons. Especially his third son, Selim, was frequently in rebellion against his father. The last conquest of Akbar comprised of Asirgarh, a fort in the Deccan. Thereafter, he faced the rebellion of his son and breathed his last on the 12th of October 1605. His body was entombed in a magnificent mausoleum at Sikandra city, near Agra. Navratnas. Akbar's court had Navaratnas, 9 jewels, meaning a group of 9 extraordinary people. They included Abul Fazl, Akbar's chief advisor and author of Akbarnama, Faizi. Akbar's poet laureate Mian Tansen, a Hindu singer, who converted to Islam, Birbal. A noble known for his wittiness, Raja Toda Mal. Akbar's finance minister, Raja Man Singh. Trusted general of Akbar, Abdul Rahim Khan the First Khana. A noble and a renowned poet, Fakir Ziauddin Mullah du Piazza. Tenali Ramakrishna. Tenali Ramakrishna is a folk hero in the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh, who figures prominently in a host of folk stories. According to tradition, he was a court poet, or Ashtadigahas, one of the 8 elephants of Telugu poetry, and court jester of Krishnadevaraya of the Vijayanagara Empire in the 16th century. Tenali Ramalinga was born in a Telugu family as Garlapati Ramakrishna. His father was Garlapati Ramaya, who served as a priest in the Ramalingeshvara Swami temple in Tenali. While some writers quote that Tenali Rama was an actual poet, others argue that Tenali Rama's historicity is entirely in doubt. Narayana Rao and Shulman used the name Tenali Ramakrishna for the 16th century court poet, while using Tenali Ramalingadu for the court jester. Many popular collections of stories, published between 1860 and 1920, use both names interchangeably for the court jester. Tenali Ramakrishna also composed some works under the name Tenali Ramalinga. Learn to appreciate. Once upon a time, there was a man who was very helpful, kind-hearted, and generous. He was a man who will help someone without asking anything to pay him back. He will help someone because H wants to and he loves to. One day while walking into a dusty road, this man saw a purse, so he picked it up and noticed that the purse was empty. Suddenly a woman with a policeman shows up and gets him arrested. The woman kept on asking where did he hide her money, but the man replied, "It was empty when I found it, ma'am." The woman yelled at him, "Please give it back, it's for my son's school fees." The man noticed that the woman really felt sad, so he handed all his money. He could say that the woman was a single mother. The man said, "Take these, sorry for the inconvenience." The woman left. And policeman held the man for further questioning. The woman was very happy, but when she counted her money later on, it was doubled. She was shocked. One day while woman was going to pay her son's school fees towards the school, she noticed that some skinny man was walking behind her. She thought that he may rob her, so she approached a policeman standing nearby. He was the same policeman, who she took along to inquire about her purse. The woman told him about the man following her, but suddenly they saw that man collapsing. They ran at him, and saw that he was the same man whom they arrested few days back for stealing a purse. He looked very weak and woman was confused. The policeman said to the woman, "He didn't return your money, he gave you his money that day. He wasn't the thief, but hearing about your son's school fees, he felt sad and gave you his money." Later, they helped man stand up, and man told the woman, "Please go ahead and pay your son's school fees. I saw you and followed you to be sure that no one steals your son's school fees." The woman was speechless. Moral: life gives you strange experiences. Sometimes it shocks you and sometimes it may surprise you. We end up making wrong judgments or mistakes in our anger, desperation and frustration. However, when you get a second chance, correct your mistakes and return the favor. Be kind and generous. Learn to appreciate what you are given. The Praying Hands. Back in the 15th century, in a tiny village near Nuremberg, lived a family with 18 children. 18. In order merely to keep food on the table for this mob, the father and head of the household, a goldsmith by profession, worked almost 18 hours a day at his trade and any other paying chore he could find in the neighborhood. Despite their seemingly hopeless condition, two of Albrecht Dürer the elder's children had a dream. They both wanted to pursue their talent for art, but they knew full well that their father would never be financially able to send either of them to Nuremberg to study at the academy. After many long discussions at night in the crowded bed, the two boys finally worked out a pact. They would toss a coin. The loser would go down into the nearby mines and, with his earnings, support his brother while he attended the academy. Then, when that brother who won the toss completed his studies, in 4 years, he would support the other brother at the academy, either with sales of his artwork or, if necessary, also by laboring in the mines. They tossed a coin on a Sunday morning after church. Albrecht Dürer won the toss and went off to Nuremberg. Albert went down into the dangerous mines and, for the next 4 years, financed his brother, whose work at the academy was almost our immediate sensation. Albrecht's etchings, his woodcuts, and his oils were far better than those of most of his professors, and by the time he graduated, he was beginning to earn considerable fees for his commissioned works. When the young artist returned to his village, the Dürer family held a festive dinner on their lawn to celebrate Albrecht's triumphant homecoming. After a long and memorable meal, punctuated with music and laughter, Albrecht rose from his honored position at the head of the table to drink a toast to his beloved brother for the years of sacrifice that had enabled Albrecht to fulfill his ambition. His closing words were, "And now, Albert, blessed brother of mine, now it is your turn. Now you can go to Nuremberg to pursue your dream, and I will take care of you." All heads turned in eager expectation to the far end of the table where Albert sat, tears streaming down his pale face, shaking his lowered head from side to side while he sobbed and repeated, over and over, "No, no, no, no." Finally, Albert rose and wiped the tears from his cheeks. He glanced down the long table at the faces he loved, and then, holding his hands close to his right cheek, he said softly, "No, brother. I cannot go to Nuremberg. It is too late for me. Look what 4 years in the mines have done to my hands. The bones in every finger have been smashed at least once, and lately I have been suffering from arthritis so badly in my right hand that I cannot even hold a glass to return your toast, much less make delicate lines on parchment or canvas with a pen or a brush. No, brother, for me it is too late. More than 450 years have passed. By now, Albrecht Dürer's hundreds of masterful portraits, pen and silver point sketches, watercolors, charcoals, woodcuts, and copper engravings hang in every great museum in the world, but the odds are great that you, like most people, are familiar with only one of Albrecht Dürer's works. More than merely being familiar with it, you very well may have a reproduction hanging in your home or office. One day, to pay homage to Albert for all that he had sacrificed, Albrecht Dürer painstakingly drew his brother's abused hands with palms together and thin fingers stretched skyward. He called his powerful drawing simply "Hands," but the entire world almost immediately opened their hearts to his great masterpiece and renamed his tribute of love, "The Praying Hands." Mora, the next time you see a copy of that touching creation, take a second look. Let it be your reminder, if you still need one, that no one ever makes it alone. The White Elephant. Once upon a time, there lived a herd of 80,000 elephants at the bottom of the majestic Himalayas. Their leader was a magnificent and rare white elephant who was an extremely kind-hearted soul. He greatly loved his mother, who had grown blind and feeble and could not look out for herself. Each day this white elephant would go deep into the forest in search of food. He would look for the best of wild fruit to send to his mother. But alas, his mother never received any. This was because his messengers would always eat them up themselves. Each night, when he returned home, he would be surprised to hear that his mother had been starving all day. He was absolutely disgusted with his herd. Then one day, he decided to leave them all behind and disappeared in the middle of the night along with his dear mother. He took her to Mount Kandarana to live in a cave beside a beautiful lake that was covered by gorgeous pink lotuses. It so happened that one day, when the white elephant was feeding, he heard loud cries. A forester from Benares had lost his way in the forest and was absolutely terrified. He had come to the area to visit relatives and could not find his way out. On seeing this big white elephant, he was even more terrified and ran as fast as he could. The elephant followed him and told him not to be afraid, as all he wanted to do was to help him. He asked the forester why he was crying so bitterly. The forest replied that he was crying because he had been roaming the forest for the past 7 days and could not find his way out. The elephant told him not to worry, as he knew every inch of this forest and could take him to safety. He then lifted him onto his back and carried him to the edge of the forest, from where the forester went on his merry way back to Benares. On reaching the city, he heard that King Brahmadatta's personal elephant had just died and the king was looking for a new elephant. His heralds were roaming the city, announcing that any man who had seen or heard of an elephant fit for a king should come forward with the information. The forester was very excited and immediately went up to the king and told him about the white elephant that he had seen on Mount Kandarana. He told him that he had marked the way and would require the help of the elephant trainers in order to catch this fantastic elephant. The king was quite pleased with the information and immediately dispatched a number of soldiers and elephant trainers along with the forester. After traveling for many days, the group reached the lake beside which the elephants resided. They slowly moved down to the edge of the lake and hid behind the bushes. The white elephant was collecting lotus shoots for his mother's meal and could sense the presence of humans. When he looked up, he spotted the forester and realized that it was he who had led the king's men to him. He was very upset at the ingratitude but decided that if he put up a struggle, many of the men would be killed. And he was just too kind to hurt anyone. So he decided to go along with them to Benares and then request the benevolent king to be set free. That night, when the white elephant did not return home, his mother was very worried. She had heard all the commotion outside and had guessed that the king's men had taken away her son. She was scared that the king would ride him into battle and her son would definitely be killed. She was also worried that there would be no one to look after her or even feed her, as she could not see. She just lay down and cried bitterly. Meanwhile, her son was led into the beautiful city of Benares, where he was given a grand reception. The whole city was decorated and his own stable was gaily painted and covered with garlands of fragrant flowers. The trainers laid out a feast for their new state elephant, who refused to touch a morsel. He did not respond to any kind of stimuli, be it the fragrant flowers or the beautiful and comfortable stable. He just sat there looking completely despondent. The worried trainers went straight to report the situation to their king, as they were scared that the elephant would just waste away without any food or water. The king was extremely concerned when he heard what they had to say and went to the stable himself. He offered the elephant food from the royal table and asked him why he grieved in this manner. He thought that the elephant should be proud and honored that he was chosen as the state elephant and would get the opportunity to serve his king. But the white elephant replied that he would not eat a thing until he met his mother. So the king asked him where his mother was. The elephant replied that she was back home on Mount Kandarana and must be worried and hungry, as she was blind and had no one to feed her and take care of her. He was afraid that she would die. The compassionate king was touched by the elephant's story and asked him to return to his blind, old mother, and take care of her as he had been doing all along. He set him free in love and kindness. The happy elephant went running home as fast as he could, and he was relieved to find that his mother was still alive. He filled his trunk with water and poured it over his sick mother, who thought that it was raining. Then she cried out as she thought that some evil spirit had come to harm her, and wished and prayed that her son was there to save her. The white elephant gently bent over his blind mother and stroked her lovingly. She immediately recognized his touch and was overjoyed. Her son lifted her up and told her that the kind and compassionate king of Benares had set him free, and he was here to love and look after his mother forever. His mother was absolutely thrilled and blessed the kind king with peace, prosperity and joy till the end of his days. She was so thankful to him for sending her son back home. The white elephant was able to take good care of his mother till the day she died. And when he died himself, the king erected a statue of him by the side of the lake and held an annual elephant festival there in memory of such a caring and noble soul. Moral: always give affection and care to our dear ones. Always respect others' feelings. How the tortoise got his shell. A long time ago, a terrible famine hit an ancient animal kingdom. It had not rained for 2 whole years and all of the crops were dying. The animals hoped and prayed for an end to the terrible drought, but the sky was no longer able to gather enough clouds, and the rains did not come. Ajapa, the cunning tortoise, lived on the outskirts of the village with his wife and 2 sons. The famine was very bad and was already having a devastating effect on all the animals, so Ajapa could no longer trick them into parting with what little rations of food they possessed. One morning, very tired and hungry, Ajapa left his house with the intention of searching the marketplace for scraps of food, but there was no food in the market, and so the tortoise remained as hungry as ever. However, just as the tortoise was about to return home, he saw Ahuro, the rabbit, hopping towards the marketplace. There was something strange about Ahuro. He looked radiant, well-fed, and full of exuberance. Ajapa was curious. Why is Ahuro looking so well and I am so hungry? He thought. So he approached the rabbit with his head bowed as if he were in mourning. Then he began to cry. When Ahuro saw Ajapa, he rushed to meet him. "What is it, my friend?" asked the kindly rabbit. Ajapa answered, "My father is ill in hospital. My wife is expecting our 3rd child, but she is so hungry that I fear for her health. And only last night I heard that my mother-in-law is dying of starvation because she does not have enough food to eat. I feel terrible because there is nothing I can do." Ahuro was suspicious because it was well known that the tortoise was very sly and could not always be trusted. But Ajapa was an excellent performer and soon won the rabbit's sympathy. "Meet me at Orbrook after dark," said Ahuro. "I will help you in spite of my doubts. I just hope that I do not regret this." Soon it was night, and Ajapa set out into the darkness to find Ahuro waiting at the brook. Once they had said their hellos, both animals made their way into the deep forest, the rabbit leading the way while the tortoise followed closely behind. Before long, they came to a narrow path that led to an open clearing among the trees in the middle of the forest. The rabbit stopped and pulled the tortoise to his side. "What you are about to see must be kept a secret, do you understand?" The tortoise nodded in agreement and the rabbit cupped his hands around his mouth and began to sing. "Ia, ia tarkan whale o chorus. Alu jan jan ki jan, ia, ia tarkan whale o chorus. Alu jan jan ki jan." Suddenly, a long, white rope descended from the sky. Ahuro grabbed the rope and began to climb. After hesitating for just a moment, Ajapa also took a hold of the rope and followed the rabbit up into the night sky. The rabbit and the tortoise climbed and climbed until they got to the very top of the rope, where there was a magnificent, fluffy cloud shaped like a door. The door opened, and there stood a kindly old rabbit with a smile upon her face. "Mother, exclaimed Ehero in a joyful voice as he embraced the old rabbit. "This is my friend Ajapa who has come for supper." Ehero's mother held out her hand and gave the tortoise a warm handshake. "Come in and eat with us. I have just set the table." The sight that met Ajapa's eyes made him gasp. There was a large table laden with the most sumptuous foods he had ever seen. There were exotic fruits and fresh fish of all types marinated and cooked with herbs. There was also rice and yam and mouth-watering soups. The hungry tortoise dug in immediately and ate everything that he could get his hands on. "Don't eat too much," Ehero cautioned, "or you will not be able to climb back down the rope and walk back to the village." The tortoise continued to eat until eventually he slumped back in his chair and gazed sheepishly around the room, his belly protruding like a huge balloon. After they had rested for a while, Ehero decided that it was time to return home. Ajapa rubbed his large belly, got to his feet very slowly, and made his way to the door. "Aren't you going to take some food back home for your family?" Ehero's mother asked Ajapa. "No thank you," replied Ajapa, "I am too full in my belly to carry any food with me." And so Ehero's mother let down the rope and the rabbit and the tortoise descended back into the forest and went their separate ways home. When Ajapa got home his family was still sleeping, so he crept into his bed, covered himself up with his blanket, and fell into a deep sleep for 12 hours. When he eventually awoke, Ajapa was very hungry. "I need food," he thought to himself. "I need food and I need it now." It was then that Ajapa had an idea. "I will go back to Ehero's house while he is still at work. I will think of some lies to tell his mother when she lets down the rope, and I will fill my belly once again." When Ajapa arrived at the open space in the forest, he cleared his throat and began to sing the same song that Ehero had sung the previous night. "Ia, Ia Tarkan Whale O Chorus. Alu Jan Jan Ki Jan, Ia, Ia Tarkan Whale O Chorus. Alu Jan Jan Ki Jan." The trouble was, Ajapa had a rather husky voice and the song did not sound as beautiful or as heartfelt as when it was sung by Ehero. "That does not sound like my son," thought Ehero's mother. The old rabbit hesitated for a moment, but eventually she decided to let down the rope. "Perhaps he has caught a cold," she thought, as she lowered the rope into the clearing below. The mischievous tortoise was delighted to see the rope fall to the ground and he quickly grabbed it with both hands and began to climb as fast as he could. Ajapa was halfway up the rope when he heard a voice shouting from the forest below. "Hey, where do you think you're going? Come back down at once." It was Ehero, and he sounded very angry. "Mother, we've been tricked," shouted the rabbit. Still Ajapa continued to climb the rope, his mind full of thoughts of the feast awaiting him above. Ehero called out to his mother again, but again nothing happened. And so the tortoise continued to climb up the rope into the clouds. Ehero cleared his throat, took a very deep breath, and began to sing to his mother up in the clouds. "Ia, Ia Tarkan Whale O Chorus. Alu Jan Jan Ki Jan, Ia, Ia Tarkan Whale O Chorus. Alu Jan Jan Ki Jan." When Ehero's mother heard her son's voice she exclaimed, "Now that is my son." But who was the first caller? The old rabbit peeped through the clouds to see what was happening below. That was when she saw the tortoise climbing up the rope towards her. "Mother," shouted Ehero from far below, "cut the rope." The old rabbit fetched a large carving knife and began to cut at the rope. At first it seemed as if the rope was made of iron and that the knife would have no effect at all. But Honoro's mother continued to hack at the rope with all her might, and soon there was only a very thin strand left for the tortoise to hang on to. Then the old rabbit gave the rope a final hack with the knife, and whoosh! Ajapa went tumbling down towards the forest below. The winds carried Ajapa back and forth, tossing him around in the sky until he landed heavily on his back in the forest. Unfortunately for him, the only thing to cushion his fall was a big rock that was sitting on the forest floor. When he landed on the rock, Ajapa's shell cracked in so many places that it ended up looking like a jigsaw puzzle. The tortoise awoke many hours later. He was very dazed, but he was able to move and found that he was not in very much pain after all. But his shell remained like a jigsaw puzzle and would never again return to the lovely, smooth, round shape it was before. A farmer and his wife. A farmer said to his wife, "You are lazy. You work slowly and lethargically. You waste your time." The wife was angry at the words of her husband. She said to her husband, "You are wrong. Stay at home tomorrow. I will go to field. I will do your work there. Will you do my works at home here?" The farmer said happily, "Very well. I will do your works back at home." The wife said, "Milk the cow. Feed the pigs. Wash the utensils. Take care of our hen. Spin the yarn." The woman went to the field. The farmer stayed back at home. He took a vessel and went to the cow to milk it. He tried to milk the cow. He received a good kick. He then went to the pigsty. He hit his head against the beam. He went to feed the hen. He forgot to spin. The wife returned from the field when it turned evening. The farmer hung down his head in shame. Thereafter he did not find fault with his wife. They lived happily together for a long time. A father learns a lesson from his son. This short story, A Father Learns a Lesson from His Son, is quite interesting to all the people. Enjoy reading this story. Velen was a carpenter. He was living in a village. His mother dies a long time back. His aged father, Kuppen, lived with Velen. Kuppen was very weak. He could not even walk well. He was so weak. It was because Velen did not give him enough food. He had given his father a small earthen plate. Even a small quantity of rice in the plate appeared to be much. Velen was a bad man. He was a drunkard also. After taking drinks, he abused his father badly. Velen had a son. His name is Mutu. Mutu was just 10 years old. He was a very good boy. He loved his grandfather. He had great respect for his grandfather. He did not like his father's attitude and character, because his father was treating his grandfather cruelly. One day Kuppen was eating his food out of earthen plate that his son had given to him. The earthen plate fell down. The plate broke into pieces. The food also fell on the floor. Velen was working at the other end of the room. He saw the broken plate. He was very angry with his father and used very harsh words to abuse his father. The old man felt bad about what happened. He was sorry for his mistake. Velen's words wounded him very deeply. Velen's son, Mutu, saw this. He did not like his father. His father was ill-treating his grandfather. He was afraid to speak against his father. He was sad about his grandfather. But he was not powerful to stand in support of his grandfather. The next day Mutu took some of his father's carpentry tools and a piece of wood. He worked with the tools to make a wooden plate. His father saw him working. "What are you making, Mutu?" he asked. "I am making a wooden plate," replied Mutu. "A wooden plate? What for?" asked his father. "I am making it for you, father. When you grow old, like my grandfather, you will need a plate for food. A plate made from earth might break very easily. Then I may scold you severely. So, I want to give you a wooden plate. It may not break so easily." The carpenter was shocked to hear this. Only now he realized his mistake. His father was kind to Velen. He had looked after Velen very well. Now, he was old. Velen was treating his father severely. Velen was now very sad about his own behavior. He realized his mistakes. He then became a different person. From that day, Velen treated his father with great respect. He gave up drinking too. Velen learnt a lesson from his own son. You should honor your parents at all times. It is your duty. It brings you their blessings. Always stay alert. Once upon a time there was a lion that grew so old that he was unable to kill any prey for his food. So, he said to himself, I must do something to stay my stomach, else I will die of starvation. He kept thinking and at last an idea clicked him. He decided to lie down in the cave pretending to be ill, and then whosoever will come to inquire about his health will become his prey. The old lion put his wicked plan into practice and it started working. Many of his well-wishers got killed. But evil is short-lived. One day, a fox came to visit the ailing lion. As foxes are clever by nature, the fox stood at the mouth of the cave and looked about. His sixth sense worked and he came to know the reality. So, he called out to the lion from outside and said, How are you, sir? The lion replied, I am not feeling well at all. But why don't you come inside? Then the fox replied, I would love to come in, sir. But on seeing all footprints going to your cave and none coming out, I would be foolish enough to come in. Saying so, the fox went to alert the other animals. Moral: always keep your eyes open and stay alert before walking in any situation. Fear versus respect. Long time ago, very cruel king, named Virat Singh was ruling the city of Vijayanagar. All citizens were fearful because of his cruelty. Virat has a dog named Jack, which he used to love more than anything. One fateful morning Jack died. Virat Singh organized last rituals for dog. Entire city came to cremation ground. Virat Singh was very happy to see that people love him so much and he felt he is the most popular king in the world. After a few days Virat Singh died, but no one came for his funerals. Moral: respect is something you have to earn. You cannot force it on others to respect you. There is a thin line between fear and respect. Every one of us should understand it and do necessary corrections in our personalities. Helping others. Once there was a small boy named Shankar. He belonged to a poor family. One day, he was crossing through the forest carrying some woods. He saw an old man who was very hungry. Shankar wanted to give him some food, but he did not have food for his own. So he continued on his way. On his way he saw a deer who was very thirsty. He wanted to give him some water, but he did not have water for himself. So he went on his way ahead. Then he saw a man who wanted to make a camp but he did not have woods. Shankar asked his problem and gave some woods to him. In return, he gave him some food and water. Now he went back to the old man and gave him some food and gave some water to the deer. The old man and the deer were very happy. Shankar then happily went on his way. However, one day Shankar fell down the hill. He was in pain but he couldn't move and no one was there to help him. But the old man who he had helped before saw him. He quickly came and pulled him up the hill. He had many wounds on his legs. The deer whom Shankar had gave water saw his wounds and quickly went to forest and brought some herbs. After some time his wounds were covered. All were very happy that they were able to help each other. Moral: if you help others, then they will also help you. Unity is strength. Once upon a time, there was a flock of doves that flew in search of food led by their king. One day, they had flown a long distance and were very tired. The dove king encouraged them to fly a little further. The smallest dove picked up speed and found some rice scattered beneath a banyan tree. So all the doves landed and began to eat. Suddenly a net fell over them and they were all trapped. They saw a hunter approaching carrying a huge club. The doves desperately fluttered their wings trying to get out, but to no avail. The king had an idea. He advised all the doves to fly up together carrying the net with them. He said that there was strength in unity. Each dove picked up a portion of the net and together they flew off carrying the net with them. The hunter looked up in astonishment. He tried to follow them, but they were flying high over hills and valleys. They flew to a hill near a city of temples where there lived a mouse who could help them. He was a faithful friend of the dove king. When the mouse heard the loud noise of their approach, he went into hiding. The dove king gently called out to him and then the mouse was happy to see him. The dove king explained that they had been caught in a trap and needed the mouse's help to gnaw at the net with his teeth and set them free. The mouse agreed, saying that he would set the king free first. The king insisted that he first free his subjects and the king last. The mouse understood the king's feelings and complied with his wishes. He began to cut the net and one by one all the doves were freed, including the dove king. They all thanked the mouse and flew away together, united in their strength. Moral: when you work together, you are stronger. Once upon a time, there lived a big mango tree. A little boy loved to come and play around it every day. He climbed to the tree top, ate the mangoes, took a nap under the shadow. He loved the tree and the tree loved to play with him. Time went by, the little boy grew, and he no longer played around the tree. One day, the boy came back to the tree with a sad look on his face. "Come and play with me," the tree asked the boy. "I am no longer a kid, I don't play around trees anymore." The boy replied, "I want toys. I need money to buy them. Sorry, I don't have money. But you can pick all my mangoes and sell them so you will have money." The boy was so excited. He picked all the mangoes on the tree and left happily. The boy didn't come back. The tree was sad. One day, the boy grown into a man returned. The tree was so excited. "Come and play with me," the tree said. "I don't have time to play. I have to work for my family. We need a house for shelter. Can you help me?" "Sorry, I don't have a house, but you can chop off my branches to build your house." So the man cut all the branches off the tree and left happily. The tree was glad to see him happy, but the boy didn't come back afterward. The tree was again lonely and sad. One hot summer day, the man returned and the tree was delighted. "Come and play with me," the tree said. "I am sad and getting old. I want to go sailing to relax myself. Can you give me a boat? Use my trunk to build your boat. You can sail far away and be happy." So the man cut the tree trunk to make a boat. He went sailing and didn't come back for a long time. Finally, the man returned after he had been gone for so many years. "Sorry, my boy, but I don't have anything for you anymore. No more mangoes to give you," the tree said. "I don't have teeth to bite," the man replied. "No more trunk for you to climb on. I am too old for that now," the man said. "I really can't give you anything. The only thing left is my dying roots," the tree said with sadness. "I don't need much now, just a place to rest. I am tired after all these years," the man replied. "Good, old tree roots are the best place to lean on and rest. Come sit down with me and rest." The boy sat down and the tree was glad and smiled. Moral: the tree in the story represents our parents. When we are young, we love to play with them. When we grow up, we leave them and only come back when we need help. Parents sacrifice their lives for us. Never forget their sacrifices. Give them love and care before it's too late. The power of silence. Joe was an old man, aged 75 years. He lived very happily, and formed a beautiful family. His children grew up, and moved to different cities in pursuit of good career and future. He lived in a small village carrying the memories of his deceased wife. Joe had 4 grandchildren and they used to visit him during their holidays. And it was the vacation time, and Joe was eagerly waiting for the arrival of his grandchildren. He was preparing his home for the kids, cleaning the home, mowing the garden, rearranging the household items, buying the favorite foods, dresses for the children, etc. In the busy arrangements, he lost his favorite watch. Old watch. The watch was gifted by his dead wife when their first child was born. Joe treasured the watch, and it became his sole companion after his wife's death. He forgot a watch missing, and was happy receiving the kids at home. It was only the next day, when he was about to take bath, he remembered that the watch was missing. He saw the watch last when he was arranging things in the barn. He was shocked and very upset. His grandchildren asked him why he was so dull and asked him what troubled him. Joe said, "Dear children, I lost the most precious watch I have ever had and I ever got in my life. It was gifted by your grandma and I lost it while cleaning the home. I feel like I'm missing my heart." Joe was on tears, and the children promised him that they would search the watch for him. One granddaughter asked, "Grandpa, do you remember when you saw the watch last before it was missing?" Joe told, "I guess when I was cleaning the barn." The children decided to search for the watch in the barn. The barn was full of waste materials, books, scraps, broken furniture, etc. The children searched for more than 2 hours, with help of Joe and a servant, but could not find it. Joe was completely shattered and asked the children to stop searching as they could not find anything. The kids were also too sad, and consoled the grandfather. One grandson again moved to the barn, and Joe asked why he was going there again. The little boy requested others not to follow him and remain silent. While the others were little surprised, they still followed what he said. The little boy went to the barn and sat there in silence. The other children reached him and asked him what he was doing, and the little boy asked them not to make noise. He sat there for about 15 minutes, and then rushed to his grandfather. Yes, he got the watch and happily gave it to Joe. He was surprised, and asked how he was able to find it. The little boy replied, "I sat there without making a noise, and the barn was so silent. After a few minutes, I heard the tick-tick sound and found the watch." Joe hugged him and thanked the little boy. This is the power of silence. If we stay calm, we can find the solution very easily.